Welcome travel lovers, welcome vacation cravers, welcome happy seekers, welcome home to HappiTravel. My name is Mike Darling, I'm the co-founder of the company, and I'm joined by Montana Loudon, who's our Chief Happiness Officer, as well as the host of the podcast Mind, Body, and Soul. So welcome everybody to the HappiTravel Podcast.
Today, we're going to talk about social connections and relationships.
Yeah, I love this. This is a great topic. In fact, we've got an awesome bunch of different studies that we cite on the HappiTravel website in the Happy Science section from a whole bunch of different stuff. And this is one of those ones that you may not think about, in a specific way. People just think, oh, it's fun to travel. Let's go have some fun. It's a vacation. But really, there's some pretty cool things that happens from a connection standpoint with people. And I know you've been doing some additional research beyond even the studies we have on the site.
Yes, indeed. So listen to, I read, like you said, I've referenced a couple articles, and it's actually really kind of cool and eye-opening with these articles and what we're going to talk about today. So for one of the things I do want to mention before getting started with this is, we're all kind of caught up on our devices, right? We have to work, our phones, our things, right?
Yep.
But this article kind of reminds me again how important social connections and relationships are, because I think that's kind of been dying away a little bit with all this stuff because we're working hard and we're on our phones all the time. So these articles be pretty cool.
Yeah, honestly, maybe that's a good thing to start with is who cares, right? Everybody's so focused on just relaxing or having a good time or, stress and anxiety relief. Obviously, that's important if you're feeling that. But beyond that, yeah, it's kind of important to have connections with human beings.
Yes,
and actually
conversations.
Like have conversations and communicate and open up. And I guess, maybe that's one of the common themes that we're actually seeing through all of these particular studies is that so many of them are talking about, kind of getting outside of your bubble or your comfort zone to an extent.
Yep.
But, sometimes when you get outside of your comfort zone, that's exactly when a social connection can happen.
Yeah, and I think you learn a lot about yourself when you step outside that bubble, and it's kind of cool. So I'll get started with some of these articles. So travelers often build lifelong friendships, and deepen existing relationships on the road. Exploring the world has the power to open a person's eyes to new experiences and provides the chance to make new connections. It's one of the biggest reasons people fall in love with taking new adventures.
Love that.
Right?
That. Yep.
Yeah. So 77% of Americans said that they have made lifelong friendships when traveling. That's kind of cool when you think about that.
Yeah.
It's like...
Yeah, lifelong friendships. Wherever you live, you have friends, whatever people and that's typically it. But isn't it interesting that when you travel, you meet new people that are not where you are, they're not where you live. And so in some cases, you end up knowing them for a long time.
And listen to this. So people aren't just making connections on the road, they are deepening them. A vast majority of respondents believe travel can strengthen existing bonds at 71%.
That's crazy.
Right?
In fact, it's funny. I actually think of my parents. They travel a lot or have traveled a lot. They love to cruise. Right, it's one of the many things that they like to do. And, they've met people years and years and years ago on cruises that, of course, they stay in touch with forever. More than stay in touch with, they've gone and, stayed with people at their
totally,
homes.
Exactly.
It's like an excuse to, oh, you live where? Great, we've never been there.
Right.
And there's almost that, that mentality of people when you're traveling that you're open to that as well. You meet somebody, you really like them, and you're like, yeah, the next time you're in XYZ, wherever you live, you call us. Let's get together.
And that's so cool. That is so cool. Yeah. So what makes a trip unforgettable? Asks Robin Brooks, marketing director, Exodus Travels. The unexpected appreciation from locals when you traveled so far because you want to know them and their culture. And the tales of family, history, and dreams unearthed by strangers turned newfound friends over a shared meal so often isn't these moments that conjure up lasting memories, whether we are building a just for now or a new forever relationship, or sowing the seeds of cross-culture understanding that will impact our personal worldview for years to come.
Absolutely. In fact, that last part that you mentioned there, that actually kind of touches on and reminds me a little bit of one of the studies that we do have on the site, the one from the University of Texas, where it talks about, kind of when you're outside your comfort zone in different countries or in different places, you're meeting people. Maybe you need help with something.
Yeah,
right? You're in a foreign country. Maybe you don't speak the language. You need help. So you feel a little bit exposed, and so that can actually create this sense of connectedness when you're talking to somebody who is helping you, especially if they're genuinely connecting with you to try. They see that you need help, and so it kind of creates that really interesting feeling where you're a little vulnerable, and
Right,
there's someone
absolutely.
else who you don't know, who all of a sudden you're starting to meet, and there's a connection, and then that can just be a momentary thing. They help you with something, you never see them again in your life,
Right,
or
right.
it can develop into an actual relationship.
And I think, well, and as you always laugh, because every time I go somewhere or take plane rides,
Your airplane friends.
you're like, oh, you made a new airplane friend again.
Every time. It's crazy.
And seriously, I have stayed in touch with people over the years as I've met people where whatever adventures we take or traveling or, which I think that just is so cool. And it opens me up. I learn from people, things, conversations.
Yeah,
I think it's pretty cool.
Absolutely.
Traveling also gives us exposure to other cultures. If an individual has remained in their home for their entire life, it would make it hard to completely understand the struggles and celebrations of other regions and countries. One country can be vastly different from one side to the other. The dialects of different from food, local music, and the terrain can all be different from one place to another. There are different languages and ways of communicating all over the world. Exposure to these things allows us to be open-minded and understand that though we are different, it is our similarities as humans that brings us together.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that concept right there,
Right, yep.
that kind of human connection. I mean, that's one of those things that, when you have to be open-minded, I think that you naturally become more tolerant and more trusting.
You absolutely
and more,
do.
more available.
Yep.
It's like the Momondo study that we have. This is another one that's on the site where we talk about that there's 76% of people surveyed say that traveling has made them more tolerant, trusting, and accepting of others.
Absolutely.
And I think that really gets to the heart of that. So, why is that important? Well, that's what brings us all together is
Right.
the second you
Yep.
take a step back. It doesn't mean that you have to completely change what you think or your opinions or anything like that.
Right.
But if you just open for a minute to understand how
That's
other people
just
think
it.
and feel,
Yep.
and they're doing the same, it makes for a better world. It really does.
Well, and talking on that note, this is kind of cool what they say in this article. One of the great benefits of traveling is the connections that are built and the relationships made during one stay. As humanity is so often divided, learning to communicate across nations and foster global understanding of each other is crucial to the success of all countries and people. Okay, traveling, as you're saying, fosters a medium to build human connections with one another by learning about culture, food, new sights, music, and the way people live their day-to-day lives in different parts of the world, right? The best on-site learning a person can get is with traveling and seeing different cultures. I think it's just, it's pretty cool.
Absolutely. I mean, the very, and it's not just strangers, right? It's
Right,
also the people the people who you travel with.
Right. Exactly.
There's nothing better than, taking friends and family and going and doing something like this where you get to explore things together and you get to learn things together, experience things together. In fact, there's that there's a study by the U.S. Travel Association that said that many couples feel an overall increase in their perception of closeness and shared interest with their partners after traveling.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And so this idea of kind of opening up or kind of being kind of curious and letting your mind exposed to new things, well, that matters to your existing relationships as well.
Absolutely. I think it's so powerful when you really think about what traveling can really do to broaden our horizons, to, connections. And again, we don't see people face to face enough and have enjoyed the life. Like we're talking about, like these articles, music, food. Who doesn't love food, right? We all have to eat. So it's just kind of cool how when traveling, it's just a great way, like you sit next to somebody in a different country and you're eating something and you bring up conversation. Isn't this food amazing? Oh my gosh,
Absolutely. I mean, Wallace Nichols, the author of Blue Mind, that's another one of the things that we link on the site, talks about, reports that traveling also helps reset our emotions, right? That concept of resetting. And so when we do that, we're actually more compassionate with ourselves and others vacationing. So even that friend, let's say you have a friend that you see every day,
right?
Let's say maybe go to coffee every day or whatever you do.
Yeah.
The problem is you're both stuck in your everyday.
That's exactly.
And so what do you talk about?
Yep.
Whatever's going on that day, the hassles, the stress, whatever, all it is.
Yep.
Whereas if even that same friend, you're traveling, you're both in a totally different state.
Right.
You're in different places, you're experiencing different things. And so that compassion and that overall emotion and sensitivity between both of you changes, even though it's the same person, it's the same relationship.
Right.
But it can just deepen that connection.
Yeah.
Purely because of travel.
Yeah, and I think there's just in the world today, right now, there's so much, division and stuff like that. And I think it's so important for us to kind of sometimes step back and really just be amongst each other, and just that respect and appreciation for just people in general. Traveling is many experiences in one. It's a way to learn and grow within oneself, grow with other people by learning about something or something new. It is a way to hone organizational and time management skills. I didn't think of it like that, but that's kind of cool. Traveling is an opportunity to communicate with someone different than ourselves or the people in our region. Through communication and understanding, traveling can provide a way to bring humanity together.
Absolutely. There's no better way to leave it than right there. That's awesome.
Cool. So, okay, guys, thanks. Have a great day.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.